Do you mind pausing for a second so I get more coffee? This is Ruminate, Episode 4. Ruminate is a podcast about the opportunities and challenges that technology presents us with every day. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, as always, is Rob Lewis. Hi, Rob.
Hi, John. How are you?
Very good. How you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Looking forward to a nice week off work next week. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, no, I don't have a week off, but I'm doing pretty well. I've got a 5K race that I'm doing in about an hour, so we started a little earlier than usual. It's Sunday morning here. At least for me, it's very early. It's 6 a.m., so, forgive me if I'm a little tired. I'm working through my first cup of coffee of the day, so I should get better as the show goes on. So I want to thank everybody for all the Nando's follow-up. This could become the Nando's podcast, I suppose, and every week we could talk about what you or I had at Nando's, but I did want to follow up, get on a couple extra trips that I made to Nando's since we last did a show. And at the suggestion of Graham Spencer, who writes for Mac Stories, and Tom Wild, who lives in Poole, I believe, I tried a couple of new things. I saw Graham post a picture of a chicken sandwich from Nando's that looked fantastic, so I had one of those. And I had the macho peas at the recommendation of Tom. Not a huge fan of peas myself to begin with, but if you're going to have peas, I think these are the peas to have. I mean, they've got some of the hot sauce in them. They're pretty good. Have you ever had those at all, Rob?
I haven't had the peas, no. I'm not a huge fan of peas, so I tend to avoid them. The interesting part about the chicken sandwich, I saw that photo that Graham posted, and in the UK, when we buy the burgers, we get the bun is kind of I think it's a ciabatta kind of roll that's been cut in half. But it seemed like in Australia, at least, they have kind of what I would call more like traditional burger buns. So that was an interesting difference between the two.
The buns here are a lot closer to what it sounds like they are in the UK. Very much like a ciabatta bun, and they've got the little what do they call it? The Peronaise, which is their mayonnaise with hot sauce in it, and I guess lettuce, tomato. I forget what all else was on there, but it was good. The peas, like you, I'm not a huge fan of peas. Sorry, Tom, but they were pretty good. And I've tried the Portuguese rice the second time I went just this past week, and that was good. I like that too. So I think Nando's is going to be in my regular rotation from now on.
Well, I'm going probably tomorrow lunchtime or possibly the next day. So I'll report back what I have next time, and yeah, we'll pivot into the Nando's vertical each week.
Yes, I'll look for your Nando's photos at breakfast this week. Okay. So what else do we have, Rob?
We had it in the little beginning bit of the podcast last week. You were talking about the Lego that you've got on the desk. So I posted up a photo of a significant portion of my collection, but not quite all of it, which we will obviously put in the show notes. And I kind of posted that up so you could see what my Lego room is filled with, I guess probably is the best way to describe it.
No, cool. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive collection. You've got a ton of Lego there. I'm amazed. We've got a lot of Lego in our house too. Not, I guess, too surprising given that I've got 3 boys too. But that's a really, really great collection you've got there.
And actually, if you look just to the left in the middle there, you can see the Big Ben set that you described. It's still in the box there that I haven't actually built yet.
Oh, okay. That's not a hard one to build. It's a little one.
Well, yeah, I know. I just haven't got around to it yet. So,
all right. Well, I'll put a picture in the show notes of my little Lego tribute here on my mini podcasting desk, so everybody can see that as well.
And I assume that photo will be taken with your new phone that you've now got, John. Is that right?
It will be taken with my new phone. I was told that I wasn't going to get my 6S Plus until late October, but it actually came on, I think it was Thursday or Friday. I guess it was Thursday. And I've been enjoying it, but I've been setting it up ever since. I've been setting it up fresh because I just wanted to kind of clean out the cruft and get rid of the apps I don't really need. So I added all the ones on my first page first, and then have been adding as I go, figuring out what it is I really need. And then yesterday for a while I sat and scrolled through all my purchased apps for about an hour because I have a lot of purchase apps. and just started downloading things.
So we're going to jump into that in a little bit more depth, switching to phones. There's a little bit more follow up on ad blockers. I think this will probably be the last time we mention ad blockers, unless something significant happens. Because we've been talking about it quite a lot. There's a couple of episodes of different podcasts that are quite interesting to listen to on this topic. ATP 136. They talk a lot about Marco, why he pulled the app, and those kind of things. And Marco was also on the talk show this week with John Gruber. I haven't listened to all of it yet. I've listened to about half an hour, but he goes into a little bit more detail. It's like it usually is when Marco's on the talk show. It's a 3-hour podcast.
Oh, wow.
They tend to always go long when it's those two, so we'll stick those in the show notes. I think there was a link you had about an ad blocker test that somebody had done. John?
Yeah, Ben Brooks on the Brooks Review did a test, and he tested a whole bunch of ad blockers with a bunch of different kinds of sites, both sites that were ad heavy and ones that weren't. And he did it in a fairly scientific way. And it's just a good way to get a sense for how various ad blockers perform. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. I found it interesting, and I mean, I think the upshot of it is that one blocker is one of the fastest of the bunch, so that's worth checking out.
Yeah, I did. After a piece had kind of been pulled and stuff, I hadn't decided on what one to use. So this article, as you say, was pretty useful. One blocker was the one that came out on top, but he goes into a lot of detail about the different options and what kind of features you're going to get out of different apps. So yeah, it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good article to check out. And ATP, I have not listened to the Daring Fireball talk show yet, but the ATP I thought was really interesting. It was just an interesting insight into the decision process that went behind Marco pulling Peace, and how he got himself to the point where he got to a point where he didn't anticipate the kind of reaction that he got, which I thought was interesting, and I kind of understood where he was coming from. But it's worth a listen, because it's not something you can really summarize in 2 or 3 sentences. It's worth hearing it straight from Marco if you're interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And talking of apps being pulled from the App Store, iFixit, you maybe saw this, have had their app pulled, and I believe their developer license revoked because they did the teardown on the Apple TV dev kit, which we spoke about last week. And looking at it, they broke the NDA, and I think they got what they deserved. I mean, maybe Apple are kind of making an example of them, but they did break the rules, and this is the consequence of it.
Right. No, I mean it's actually to me it seemed like a very fair NDA. It just basically requires that you not review it or show pictures of it. It doesn't say you can't talk about it. It doesn't say you can't talk to other people about it. It just says you can't review it or post pictures or video about it. That's my recollection. But of course, what they did is they tore it down. They took pictures of it, and they basically wrote a review summary of what was inside. And that was pretty. That was just asking for it, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, and they kind of say that in their blog post, that they allegedly, they weighed it up and decided that actually they don't care. But I don't think Apple aren't going to start pulling apps for a developer posting a picture of the box, or, to be honest, probably not even even a screenshot or something. I very much doubt they're going to start doing that, because a lot of that was shown publicly at the keynote. But in this case, I think Apple made the right decision, and in the future, if there's advanced hardware, I guess iFixit won't be getting it directly from Apple. They'll find other ways, because they always do.
Right. Well, you would have thought, though, that they would have used a different developer account than the one they had tied to their app. Although I suppose Apple could have just could have yanked all of their developer accounts, but it was just easy enough to pull that one because it had the app tied to it too.
Well, I think we mentioned this last week, but there might have been a clause in there that you could only apply for the TV if you had an app on the App Store. So I guess in that sense, they probably didn't have a lot of choice, even if they did think of that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You did have to have something on the store. That was, I guess, how they did limit it a little bit, so you didn't just get people looking to, beta test it effectively.
There was also a story that came out this week that Apple have sent out another wave of the Apple TV developer kits, presumably in anticipation of just the launch and trying to get a few more apps in there at launch. So, I think this is a good thing. The more developers have it, the more that they might be encouraged to build something, and hopefully the App Store on day one will be filled with quite a few decent apps.
Yeah, and I was talking to Owen about that yesterday, and he told me that he saw on Twitter that the Apple TVs that are going out now are retail. They look like they're retail packaging because they're not. If you saw some of the pictures that people tweeted initially, it was very clear that the boxes were designed to go out to developers. I forget exactly what they said on them, but that they were clearly developer kits. And the new ones that are going out now don't have the USB-C cord in them, the USB-C to regular USB cord that you use to hook the Apple TV up to your Mac in order to load up the software.
Okay, so it sounds like they're just kind of ramping up production and getting those out to people, and again, just so that we can get some more apps in the App Store.
Okay, so Rob, one thing I want to talk to you about today was about how people use their iPhones as phones. And I guess this really goes beyond iPhones, really, but I see it most often with iPhones. I've been doing a little, field testing, a little research out on the streets of Chicago, watching people talk on the phone. And the thing that drives me nuts are the people who talk into the phone like it's a slice of pizza. Have you ever seen someone do this?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen a few people doing this.
They hold it almost like they are a waiter in a restaurant serving drinks, like it's a tray that they've got up on the tips of their fingers, and they've got the bottom of the phone facing their mouth, and they're talking into the bottom of the phone with the screen, facing the sky. And I've been trying to figure out what's up with that. I mean, why would someone do this? And from what I have a couple of theories. One of them is not so nice, but the other two are a little more charitable. The not so nice one is that people are just morons, and that unfortunately I think that's true some of the time. But I think this may be as a result of people using their phones with headphones that don't have a microphone built into them. So they've got headphones in their ears. And the only way to talk into the phone is to talk into the bottom. It doesn't explain why they hold it like a piece of pizza exactly, but they angle it towards their mouth in order to actually speak because they don't have the microphone dangling by the side of their head. What do you think of that theory?
That probably sounds about right. The other, I have heard a couple of different things. One is what you're saying, with the headphones without a microphone built in. And the other one is, you've probably seen the way a lot of people treat their phones. They've got this phone with like a smashed screen, and that's fine for them, and they'll live with it for a year or 2 years just with a smashed screen. And I have definitely spoken to a couple of people that the speaker, like the proper speaker in the phone, has broken, or it's not loud enough anymore because they've broken their phone. Oh. So they constantly use loudspeaker, which obviously uses the proper speaker on the bottom as opposed to the small ear speaker at the top of the phone. So that it could possibly be another cause for it.
Yeah, I'm actually convinced that some people turn on speakerphone at some point and then forget that it's on speakerphone or don't know how to turn it off and think that's just how the phone works.
That's also possible.
That all the sound comes in and out the bottom of the phone, and I'm surprised those people you don't see them turning the phone back and forth, like they putting the bottom of the phone up to their ear, then down to talk, then up, then down. I had not seen that yet, so I'll be on the lookout for that. But I did see a new one this week. I saw someone talking into their phone like it was a voice recorder, kind of like an old-fashioned cassette voice recorder, with holding it, talking across the top of the phone, which I think it's remarkable that they didn't have headphones on it. I think it's remarkable that worked, and that it shows that there are very good microphones in the iPhone because there's no microphone at the top of the phone.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, as you say, I'm amazed that would even work. I mean, I guess what we don't know is what the people on the other end of the phone call can actually hear. Whether that it's really quiet or you know, it may not actually be that good of an experience for the person on the other end of the phone. But I guess if it works, then as you say, it's a testament to you know, how good you know, these tiny little microphones are that are in phones now.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, those people on the other end are probably mostly hearing the street noise, but yeah, no. So that's just something that's in my commute, my long commute each day. I like to observe people using their phones. I am amazed too how many people have broken iPhone screens and don't get them fixed. It drives me a little crazy, but I guess some people are okay with it.
Well, I've noticed this problem. I really don't know what it's like in the US in terms of how many Apple stores there are, you know, close to different people. But like where I am in Portsmouth, the closest Apple store is like 30 or so miles away.
Yeah.
So I know that I've met a lot of people that just like, well, I don't know where to go and get it fixed. There's a couple of kind of people that do it in these phone shops, but obviously one, that invalidates your warranty.
Right.
And two, kind of you're not really sure what kind of service you're going to get at these places. And I wonder if that causes this problem where people just won't get their phones fixed.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, although I'll tell you, I see a lot of them here in Chicago, and we've got 2 downtown. We've got them in the suburbs. They're pretty much there's at least 5 that I can think of within the Chicago area. So not a lot of excuses if you live here.
Maybe I'm being too nice then. I'm not sure. So, John, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show that you've got a new phone, and I think we mentioned last week that I'd bought the 6. How are you finding the 6 Plus, which is obviously a huge jump from your 5S that you had before?
Yeah, that's been the biggest adjustment, I guess. It's just it's much larger, and I'm still getting used to it a little bit. Let's say I've had it for only like 3 days now, so it's not a long time. It is harder to use one-handed. There's no doubt about it. I've reorganized my icons on the home screen so that I can reach the ones that I'm most commonly use towards the bottom. I think besides that, it does feel it is definitely slipperier than the 5S. So I did go out yesterday and buy a case, which I haven't had a case. I think I had a case early days of my 4S, which was my first iPhone. And then I didn't have a case for most of the life of the 4S until now. And I picked up the orange silicone case, and I've been liking it so far.
So that's the orange one. That's color matched, I think, with the new Apple Watch bands as well. And I think that's what they're trying to do with the different colors.
Yeah, I stood there and I went back and forth on whether I should get the watch band too, and I decided not to for the time being. I wanted to see, I guess, in part, I wanted to see if the case stuck with me or not, and whether I wanted to keep it. I was a little worried. I mean, first of all, the phone's already big, so in and out of your pocket, it takes up a lot of space, and I didn't want to I was hoping, and I think it's okay, but I was a little concerned that if it was too grippy, that it would be really hard just to get in and out of pockets and things. But it's a kind of more of a softer, smoother silicone, so it gives it more grip, but it's also not really rubbery, and not hard at all to take in and out of your pocket.
So I bought the leather case with mine, which is I tried the leather case that Apple brought out for the 5S, and I really didn't like that. I think I bought it and I either returned it or sold it straight after. But the leather case for the 6 and presumably the 6S as well, it's a nice finish, but it's not too thick. And of course, it removes the sticking out camera, which is just a horrible design decision.
Yeah, that I have noticed that. I mean, when I had no case on this, it did bother me for sure.
So for me, like the size, maybe we mentioned this last week, I can't remember, but just having a little bit more screen real estate on the 6 from the 5S is great. Obviously, it gives me another row of icons, and I can see more content when I'm browsing the web, that kind of thing. I mean, for me, the biggest thing is just the battery. Like it lasts me all day again, which my 5S used to do when I first bought it, but by the end, it was knackered. So it's just nice to have a new phone, really. I mean, obviously I haven't got the 6S with all the 3D touch and all of those improvements, but for me, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, the battery is obviously better. I can tell that right off, but I don't feel like I've had a full day of normal usage with it yet, because since I started my phone fresh, I've been setting it up a little bit every day since I got it. So, and fiddling around with all the new features. So I don't feel like I've kind of had my normal usage of it yet, but I can tell already that it's gonna work a lot better for me in terms of battery life.
Yeah, so you mentioned you started from a fresh install, which I've generally done in the past. This time I decided not to. I couldn't be bothered with all the passwords and all the settings and that kind of thing. But what I did do was I restored it from the backup and then went into the settings and just reset my home screen layout. So I moved everything off the first screen, and I just had like one app. I think it was like phone or messages or something. And then each time I needed an app, I just went and found it, moved it to the home screen, and that was kind of how I worked out, the apps that I did need, and the ones that I don't use over the course of a week, I just kind of deleted or hid away in a folder.
Yeah, that's not unlike what I did. I mean, because what I ended up doing was I did do it fresh, and I recreated the apps that I had on the first page of my 5S, because I knew those were ones that I wanted and use all the time. And then I added a handful of other ones that are important, but that just don't sit on the first screen. And I lived with that for a couple of days, and that was more than sufficient. But there are a ton of apps that I use just periodically, and my 5S, I'd built up a whole bunch of games that I really never played and that sort of thing. So after I had all the passwords in and everything set up with the core apps, I went through and just added, like I said before, just went through my purchase tab and added everything back. I did, or added back the ones that seemed the most important. Since I now have an extra row of icons, I did add a few things. I did put wallet on the first page for now, because I do use Apple Pay, and I have a card in there for Starbucks and a couple other things. I'm not sure that one's going to stick on the first page long term. What else did I put on here on the first page that wasn't on there before? Oh, a couple of games, Letterpress and Domino Drop. Love both those games. And I added Notes because I want to try out Notes a little more. So got few new apps on the front screen. When I did this, the one thing I didn't do is I didn't wipe my old 5S. Yesterday when I was going through my purchase tab, one of the things I did is I went through the old 5S and looked to see what was on there and used that as kind of my guide for what I was searching for and downloading. But boy, did it seem small after just even a couple of days with the 6S Plus. It was really, really tiny.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I was in London last weekend with my parents for my mum's birthday. And she was having some problems with her phone, which she seems to do quite often. And she said, "Oh, can you sort this out? Pass me her 5S." And for a minute, I couldn't believe how small it was. Like, for a minute, I was like, "Is this a 4? Is it a 5?" Like, I got so used to the 6 in only like kind of a week that I was just so surprised at how small it felt. At least, I mean, it'd been fine for the last 2 years for me, and now it kind of feels really small. I'm
just going to say, even just having this extra space between the icons is really nice. I mean, it just feels like there's room for everything to breathe a little more.
Yeah, definitely. The home screen, obviously it hasn't changed for, 7 years now. So yeah, just a little bit more space so everything just feels a bit nicer is great. You mentioned Notes, actually. Have you played around a lot with the new Notes? I mean, I've been using it a little bit this week, mostly for the kind of inline to-do list that you can do with the check boxes. What about you?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was using it for. Just putting together a quick list of things to do on various projects. I haven't used it a lot. I've had done a few test notes with some drawings and whatnot. It is nice with the 3D touch now that you can just press on it and you can do a sketch, photo, or new note straight from the home screen, which is pretty nice. but up until now, I hadn't used it a whole lot, even though I've had iOS 9 on my old phone for a while, because I didn't have El Capitan on my Mac. So now that I've got that on my Mac, I think I'm going to start using it a little bit more. I'm a little leery of moving things out of. I mean, one of my main, I think we talked about this maybe even on the first episode. I try to keep text all in one place because then I can find it, and so everything's in NVAlt. So I think Notes, if anything, will be a place where more temporary stuff resides.
Yeah, I think for me that's kind of the same. I'm still not 100% convinced that I trust iCloud with a lot of my stuff. But it seems pretty useful for, like you say, quick to-do list, that kind of thing. How did you find moving your watch to the new phone?
Oh, it was kind of a disaster. I mean, it is definitely an accessory in that it just wipes out your whole watch. When you're doing it fresh. So, you did it from a backup? So didn't that bring over your apps?
So it did, but the process was, so I've got my watch, I've got my old phone, I've got my new phone. So the first thing I needed to do was wipe the watch, like unpair it from my 5S. So that then sits there and it wipes the phone, wipes the watch and gets rid of everything that's on there.
Right.
Then go to my 6, pair it back with the watch as if it's a new watch, and then it asks if you want to restore it from the backup that lives somewhere, I guess in iCloud.
Yeah.
That was not a fun experience. And of course, on top of that, we had the WatchOS 2 update, which was just horrendous. Like, the download times are terrible, and it was so slow to install.
Well, I think you get a good idea how slow the components of this watch really, really are. I mean, I think just the read-write times are incredibly long.
Yeah, I think that's probably the problem. I mean, presumably it's transferring that data over Bluetooth, I guess, or, even Wi-Fi. I mean, that was a kind of 500 meg update, so it's going to take a long time no matter what.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound like it's much better experience when you have a backup. I did it fresh, so I did the unpairing and repairing, and that just is like setting it up as though it's a brand new out-of-the-box watch. And then just yesterday, I went through the Apple Watch app and just ticked off all the apps that I wanted on my watch, and I haven't really rearranged that yet. I mean, when you do it fresh, that when you set up a phone fresh, there's so many steps and it takes so long. But I guess the benefits are, like I said, getting rid of the cruft, the things that you haven't used in a long time, and really getting a better sense for what is important to you. But also, I kind of felt like I had some weird glitchy things that were going on with my old phone every now and then. I wasn't really sure what was happening, whether there was a bad file somewhere, a bad app that was misbehaving and whatnot. So I figured doing it from the ground up would be the way to go. And I think if the way I did it is probably the best way for me in terms of the amount of time commitment. I didn't try to just download everything all at once and then get frustrated with all the passwords and logins and everything. I just did one screen's worth of apps, the ones that I absolutely needed, went through them methodically and logged into everything. And then just when I finally had a little spare time, more than 15 minutes, sat down and thought about what else I wanted on there. So that worked out pretty well. But it is a labor-intensive way to do it if you're starting fresh. Yeah,
there was an interesting episode of Upgrade. I think it was episode 56. We've got in our show notes, and Mike Hurley was trying to do the watch update while he was recording.
And, I heard that, yeah.
And I think he went maybe 3 or 4 times it was trying to download, and it would give an error message that I actually saw a couple of times, which kind of would give you like some kind of random app that you had on your phone or your watch and say, sorry, you've run out of space. And I think Mike suggested on there that maybe it had downloaded the update twice and it didn't have space for it or whatever. But we'll pop that episode in the show notes if people want to have a listen to Mike getting very angry on air trying to upgrade his watch.
Yeah, I heard that too, and I wanted to shout into Overcast at him and give him tips because I'm not sure that's exactly what was going on. I had a similar experience. I had a couple of watch apps that kept giving me those kind of messages, and I had the same experience where I went into the watch app after I upgraded to 2.0, and it said you're up to date at 1.0.1 or 1.01, right? And it was very confusing. But I found actually that if I just let the thing sit and take it slow, because it's so slow, the watch itself is so slow on the read writes that it wasn't registering. It looked like nothing was happening, but things were happening on the watch. And I let it just sit there while I was doing other things, and eventually it sorted itself out. But I had a similar experience to Mike. All right, so just a couple other things I thought I would add on the new phone. The camera is amazing. I haven't taken a lot of low light photos yet, which I'm planning to do, but I've taken a couple downtown when it was nice, bright, sunny day, and the detail and the colors and everything. They're just fantastic photos. Big difference from the 5S. I mean, I think that's one thing that's nice if you do kind of skip generations in upgrading is you really do see a huge leap, not just a incremental one year over year, which is one place where I think sometimes reviewers get themselves stuck because they're used to having every single phone. And I think most people, at least in the US, historically with the 2-year contracts, don't upgrade every year. So definitely a big thumbs up on the camera. The other thing, I did run into one really weird thing that I've never seen before, and I thought I'd mention it in case anyone else is having the problem. I downloaded I re-downloaded some apps with in-app purchase in them, and wanted to restore the purchases that I had made. And I had Pedometer Plus, and wanted to just throw a tip David's way. So I tried to do so, and it didn't work. It kept telling me that I had an error, and I had to go to iTunes.com/support or something like that. And I ended up in a chat with one of the support people at Apple about it, and it was just something stuck on their end. I have no idea what they did, but they said, hold on a second, and they flipped a switch and it worked again. But it was really strange because I could download apps that I already had purchased. I could buy new apps, but I couldn't do anything with in-app purchase, and this was just after moving to the new phone. So I don't know what got stuck there. At some point, logging in and out of iCloud or something, it got all jammed up, but they were able to fix it really quickly. I mean, the service was fantastic. It only took like 10, 15 minutes, and they knew exactly what it was right away. But I'd never experienced anything like that before.
No, that's good. I've always had good experience with Apple support, certainly online anyway. And obviously in the stores they're pretty good if you can get the time to talk to somebody. So no, that's good.
All right. So Rob, the one last thing I thought we would talk about today was Amazon Prime. You want to kick that off and talk about Amazon Prime?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing to mention really is Amazon are not going to be selling Apple TV and Chromecast, but the general rule seems to be now if you're selling a streaming box and it doesn't support Amazon Prime, Amazon aren't going to sell it, which is a little bit disappointing for what I was hoping for, which was some kind of Prime app for the new Apple TV. But given this news, it sounds like maybe that won't be happening at all.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know. I mean, I think that's definitely a possibility and probably the most likely outcome. Although I could also see Amazon deciding, well, we just want to keep people using Prime, because if they use Prime on their Apple TV, they've probably also they might have other devices or other reasons to use Prime, and we want them to keep coming back to Amazon.com to find their content. So maybe, but I tend to agree with you that it probably is unlikely. It strikes me as kind of a short-sighted, vindictive move on some part, but they can sell what they want to sell, I suppose. Yeah,
I mean they're absolutely well within their rights to sell whatever they want. But I think the real problem here is that Amazon Prime, the service, as opposed to the actual Amazon Prime Video, the service itself includes so many different things now. You've got delivery and video and music. I think Kindle Lending Library as well. That kind of like I've got an Amazon Prime membership and I've got Prime Video. I've got access to it. But if I can't access that on my, my primary TV device, whatever that happens to be, then the value really isn't there for me. Like, it's kind of awkward for me to see if something's available on Prime and just use it. So it kind of, that part of it just becomes uninteresting to me. So
yeah, you mean the video part, not the Amazon Prime kind of generally, right?
Sorry. So you've got Prime the service, but then you've got the video part of it. And if I can't access that, then or I can't access it easily, it doesn't really give me any value in that sense. So maybe they'll change their mind and they will release something for the Apple TV in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I actually don't use Prime Video very much, and for that very reason, I most of my content I'm pushing through my Apple TV. So I do have a Roku, one of the sticks that you can use, and I use it sometimes, but I don't know. I mean, it's the second choice, and I don't always think of it. And at least historically, Amazon Video, I have thought, has not been very good. At least the Prime part, the part that doesn't cost more. The part that you use to rent movies or buy movies costs roughly the same as iTunes. So might as well just have all those things reside in one place. And the free part is different. It has different content from time to time, but it's not that different, and it's also not very good most of the time. So for me, Amazon Prime has always really been more about the second day delivery to my home more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely why I pay for it. Maybe we should talk about the deliveries a little bit. Now, for you, John, you're in a major city in the US. Do you get 1 day delivery there? Because I know some places in the US it's actually 2-day delivery on Prime. How does that work for you in Chicago?
Yeah, it's still there. It's only guaranteed 2-day delivery, but depending on what you buy, oftentimes it'll show up in 1 day. And even in the suburbs, it'll be 1 day sometimes. But it really depends what it is. I think if I had to characterize it, it'd probably be things like video games or small electronics, things that are high volume, popular items that are probably in a warehouse somewhere close to Chicago. Will get here in a day sometimes, but it's really hit or miss. It's only guaranteed 1 day delivery if you pay $4 extra. And I'll do that once in a great while on something that's a little more pricey that I really need right away, but not very often. So there's that. We do have Prime now in parts of downtown Chicago, which is 1 or 2 hour delivery. And I've looked at what they offer, and I don't know. There's not. It's very, very limited subset of items that are offered on Amazon. So haven't felt the need to get it. I mean, it's a lot of things like DVDs, Blu-rays. You can get some video games. You could get there's a whole category of things that are basically designed for people who've forgotten their significant other's birthday. Basically, you know what I mean? Kind of somewhat cheesy, not very nice gifts that you might buy someone that will just scream, "I waited till the last minute." But that's there for the people who need it, I suppose.
So it's interesting that you say so. If I'm understanding it right, the actual guarantee that Amazon are giving you as a Prime member is 2-day delivery, but it can turn up in a day more often than not. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that has changed over time for me is that they're starting to do more. They've cut a deal with the U.S. Postal Service, which is really not good. Amazon, one thing I've always liked about Amazon is even if you can't get it in a day, they're very good about telling you exactly, tracking your package and knowing exactly when it's going to show up at your house. But they started a deal working with the U.S. Postal Service, which has the world's worst tracking system. And basically, you know that it's left somewhere, and you know when it's gotten to your house, but you don't really know much in between. The benefit, I suppose, is that they will actually deliver on Sunday now sometimes for certain things. But as I said, it's sometimes hard to know where your package is. So I don't really like that. I mean, it's a worse experience in that sense. We do have the locker, the Amazon locker too. Yeah, we do. They're in this. They're in the city. They don't have them. I don't know. I don't. Maybe they have them in the suburbs too, but nowhere near where I live. They have them downtown, but I've never really used those at this point because I can get it delivered to my office. So that's obviously a lot more, a lot better than having it show up at a 7-Eleven or something.
Yeah, so the Amazon Locker for me is perfect. I mean, it's in a kind of small supermarket that's kind of 2 minutes from my house.
Okay.
I mean, like you, I can get stuff delivered to work, but the way the kind of business centre that I work in, there's kind of 4 buildings that are all the same company, and then my company just kind of rents part of one of those buildings. So the deliveries come in, but they go to the big company's kind of main building. So then it kind of gets delivered there, and then some poor guy who works over there has then got to bring my parcels over and bring them up to my office and go, I've got a parcel for you. I'm like, thanks very much. The Amazon Locker, I mean, it's just so convenient. It's kind of on my way home. I just pop in and grab stuff. And unfortunately, in 2 weeks, we lose that because the supermarket that it's in is shutting down. So hopefully they'll be adding a new one soon.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem for me too, because I'm in a high-rise building, and the packages come in somewhere in the bottom of the building. They get scanned, and people look at them, and I don't know what goes on, but it takes forever for them to get up to where I'm at on the 40th floor. So.
Oh well, yeah. So they've got quite far to go to get to you. Then
they do. It's like a whole different delivery system that takes as long as from when you order the package till it shows up at the address. So, but I'm used to that, so it's not that big a deal.
So Amazon in the UK have actually started. They run now. Their deliveries are under a company called Amazon Logistics. And it seems to be that they're kind of subcontracting out they're contracting out the deliveries to various different delivery companies. But they're definitely trying, I think, to control the whole kind of delivery experience. Because like you, we can now get Saturday and Sunday deliveries on pretty much anything. I mean, we're quite lucky because obviously in the UK, the UK is fairly small.
Right.
It's kind of the size of, I don't even know what state it's the size of, but it's really small. It's probably smaller than most of the states in the US. So I can get pretty much anything delivered next day, and a lot of the time I can order that up to kind of 8-9 p.m. at night and still get it the next day. So the delivery aspects of it, certainly in the UK, is such good value, and that they're just really quick to get the deliveries out.
No, that is nice. Yeah, that would be nice if I could count on that. But and I guess here usually it's UPS that brings our packages more often than not. But the U.S. Postal Service will do it too. I think they probably cut a deal with Amazon to help keep the Postal Service afloat because it's perennially out of money and about to go out of business. I don't know how a government postal service goes out of business, but I think it's a money pit as far as I can tell.
To be honest, I've spoken to this a few times with some people, and in the UK we've got Royal Mail, which is, despite the name, is actually a privately run company. And they're kind of our equivalent to the United States Postal Service. And the kind of the longer it goes on, the deliveries are kind of just bills and junk mail. They're not really doing a lot of business in terms of delivering stuff for the big people like Amazon and places like that, because Amazon use UPS and the various other couriers that we've got in this country. So I think Royal Mail in this are kind of probably in the same position as the US Postal Service, that they're kind of just slipping into kind of just being irrelevant, really.
Yeah, no, that's true. It sounds like it. So, Rob, what's the biggest and smallest thing you ever bought on Amazon?
Biggest, I think, is a TV. There was a couple. I think I nearly ordered some furniture before, and ended up not. I was looking at beds and things on Amazon, and they were kind of prime next day as well, which was amazing. But yeah, I've ordered a TV and some other stuff like that, and then small stuff, I mean, I will order, a USB cable here, lightning cable, because as a side note, Amazon Basics lightning cables are fantastic. They're so much, they're so much better quality than Apple's.
Yeah, they're a lot tougher.
Yeah, absolutely. So cables is kind of the thing that I order quite a lot. I mean, I've ordered, pens. I think I ordered toothpaste once because I could have it next day and I didn't have to go to the shop. What about you? I'm assuming, you're kind of like me. You're probably ordering USB cables all the time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely done that. I may have gone as small as a watch battery once. Maybe, and probably the cheapest thing. There was a time when you could order things that were like $5 and they'd still show up the next day. They've gotten smart about that, and those things are usually add-on items. Even if you have Prime, they won't just send you a $4 or $5 cable.
Yeah.
Which I can kind of understand, even though I would prefer that wasn't the case. The biggest thing was an outdoor furniture set, which with, like coffee table, sectional outdoor type wicker couch and everything. That came in a giant truck on a pallet, and it was there in 2 days. So that was kind of cool.
Here's a trick or a tip for everyone, with the add-on item. I don't know how ethical you might say this is. But if there's an add-on item you want, and obviously it's, you need to order something else, if you just find something that's on pre-order and add that to the order, they will send out the add-on item and then you can just cancel the pre-order. I actually found that out by accident. I was pre-ordering something and dumped an add-on item, and, they kind of sent it out anyway. So there's a little tip for you, depending on how your morals are with doing something like that.
It wasn't that awful Tony Hawk game, was it? Your pre-order?
Oh no, absolutely not. There is. Oh, I don't even think we should get started on that.
No, I know that'd be an all-day discussion. I did look at the watch the GIF where he runs into a wall and goes like 1,000,000 feet into the air, which I thought was pretty funny.
If people do want to listen to a discussion of that, Mike Hurley and Federico Viticci on Virtual this week talked a little bit about the new Tony Hawk's release. I think Mike cancelled his pre-order as soon as he saw some of the videos.
Poor Mike. He was so sad.
So was I. That was kind of top of my wish list on Amazon, and I just took it straight off. I might wait and see when it kind of drops in price to like maybe £10 or something, and I'll pick it up and try it then. But yeah, we'll pop a link in the show notes to Virtual if people want to listen to a bit more of an in-depth discussion about that.
Yeah, while we're talking about Virtual, if you like video games at all, even casually, you should listen to this podcast. I'm not a big gamer, but I do like video games, and I appreciate that these guys talk about them and are not in a non-hardcore way. They say, hey, here's what we're playing. They talk about the games, and they've got some links. I don't have to go and find this stuff myself. I think it's a great podcast.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put a link in the show notes so people can find that episode and try out some of the older episodes as well, because as John said, it really is a good show.
That's about it. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No, I think that's it for this week.
All right. Well, I think if anybody, if you want to find our show notes, go to ruminatepodcast.com. You can find me at John Voorhees on Twitter, or Squibner.com, which is my website. How about you, Rob?
I'm on Twitter. I'm at RMLewisUK. I nearly forgot my Twitter name then. And my website is roblewis.me, and we will be back in 2 weeks.
Great. See you later.
See you later, John.